Well, hi, this is Lasse Hoile from Denmark. You might remember me from covers such as In Absentia with Porcupine and Steven Wilson, and you're listening to Metal Wani.
Greetings from India, Mr. Hoyle. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
All right. So, how's the day going on?
It's okay. Somebody ran into my car this morning, so it's been towed
Oh,
away. So that's a nice start.
all right. Let's talk about your journey. Art and graphics has been your hobby right from the beginning. You're a musician as well. You were the vocalist of Panzerchrist in '90s, and then
Yeah, a little,
yeah,
yeah, a little of that.
and then you made your career with in terms of photography and graphics. Tell us something about the journey.
Well, that's my life you're talking about. It's a big question.
Absolutely.
Well, well, no, actually, I've always been interested in art,
Hmm.
and not necessarily photography, but also paintings and
Right.
just art in general. But I haven't really done anything about it until the later '90s.
Yep. Early 2000.
Yeah, I always wanted to, but just never got around to it.
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time with film,
Right.
getting educated, or tried to, but I couldn't. But I just made a lot of films with my friends and got into that way.
Right.
Made some short films and stuff, and always had a big love for music.
Hmm.
Um, it's always been I started making T-shirts and demo covers for death
Okay.
metal bands in the '80s, and you know. Uh, It just kind of grew, I think, always something I wanted to do.
Hmm. Your style is very distinctive. You started working with Steven Wilson from In Absentia era,
Mm-hmm.
and then you went on to
Yes.
doing Arriving Somewhere DVD and so on. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a director, or let's say as a main person behind the entire, the presence of how Steven Wilson's music is, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you would have conceptualized a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
What are the steps you take to deliver them?
Well, me and Steve, for instance, when we work together, we get together and we talk about his ideas and the meaning behind it, and his thoughts he's had, and
Yeah, because
his.
I always felt that you understood his vision clearly and he understood your vision clearly. So, his vision and your brilliant skills, and then you guys brought it live. The visuals and the appearance, they have blown
Mm.
away everyone. So, how do you guys proceed?
Yeah, well, as I said, I hear a little bit about Steve's thoughts about his lyrics and theme for the album, and I kind of just take it from there and build upon that and do my own kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I do so many pitches, and we end up with like 500,000 pitches we can choose from.
Right.
And Steve just kind of chooses the one he thinks are closest to what he's trying to do. So it's a nice collaborative effort, I think.
That's wonderful. Even on the
You
latest.
build upon each other's ideas, and you know.
Yeah, so it's the amalgamation of two different ideas from you both.
Yeah, and I mean, we have always had the same kind of fondness for film,
Yep.
music, and weird shit. So we don't do it to make it weird. It has to be fucked up. It just kind of gets it by talking and
Right.
and what the lyrics covers and stuff, how we can do it more interestingly.
Yep.
And Steve's music tends to be very beautiful
Yep.
or big, and we want to kind of contrast that with a more darker imagery, so it's not like the typical you might expect.
Right.
You know,
That's true. Now,
So I think it complements the music quite well.
absolutely. So, even though the latest DVD, Get All You Deserve, it started on a wonderful note. I mean, the visual appearance of the band and that tiny transparent material which covered the stage,
Yeah,
it was fantastic. I mean, a real time appearance which I
thanks.
don't think anyone has done till date.
Well, I think Nine Inch Nails has done something. I mean, it's certainly not the first time I've seen it, but it's the way you do it and the way you use it. I think it's
Absolutely.
different. So it's really hard to do something new today. What you have to do is a lot of times, there's some good ideas, but you take and expand upon them and kind of see if you can do it better or differently. But
Right.
a lot of things has been done so great. One of the some of the best concert films are, well, the two I remember most is the Talking Heads
Hmm.
one, which is an old one, and I don't think, and I saw the new Nine Inch Nails show, and it kind of builds exactly the same kind of way.
Okay.
Just one guy, and then it's the stage kind
Right.
of gets bigger, just like the old Talking Heads.
But if we look from a musical perspective,
Mhm.
this looks completely different. I mean, with this kind of approach, it's something different, which has taken the Stevens music to a next level.
Yeah, but then again, we look at a lot of live shows and we see the same kind of thing every time,
Hmm.
and again, we want to try and
Different.
do it a little different.
Right. Right. I can understand.
I mean, there's a lot of people who wants to just see images. If you talk about the show itself, a lot of people just want to see the 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 fan, the idol play
Hmm.
guitar, but it's not. When you watch the show, you don't want to go to guitar lessons or drum lessons. You want to have an experience, right?
Right.
So it's a balance, I think, as well.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Now on Insurgentus, I was blown away
Hmm.
particularly for the beauty, complexity, and the uniqueness. I mean, the
Hmm.
book contained 120 pages of your photography and visual stimuli, which
Yeah.
basically captured the mood, the atmosphere, and the feel of the entire the music on the album. So whose idea was it?
Um. Well, I always wanted to do a book. And I always wanted to do a road movie with Steve. So we've been talking about that for a long time, and it was his first real solo album, and he
Right.
wanted to do something special about it. So we got to make a book about it, and I filmed more or less. I was with Steve when he made In Surrenders and was around,
Right.
and those kind of visuals are more like basically a trip,
Uh-huh.
a road trip, a
Right.
road movie, kind of
Journey.
just like, yeah.
Hmm.
It was a bit different from all the other things we did, which was kind of nice.
Right, that's true. And as always, your work contains a lot of darkness, fear, and melancholy. Now,
I don't know. It's just how the world are.
I can understand. Now, all
It
of these,
depends on who's looking.
right, right. Now, all of these emotions or expressions are vivid in the use of colors, contrast, and final visuals. Still, you maintain sort of a classical feeling. Can you tell us how you
Well,
combine these two
I'm actually
elements?
happy you noticed that because I'm very inspired of old Renaissance paintings. I mean, I don't really follow anything contemporary. I don't think you can ask any artist today to really follow what's going on around you because one, you don't really have time,
Right.
and the other is what I've seen. It's kind of like you see a lot of stuff you've seen before, and there's so much, and you don't really know where to look. I don't spend a lot of time on on the internet because I don't have a lot of time
Right.
unless somebody sends me, "Hey, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy?"
Hmm.
So I find my inspiration a lot from old masters paintings, which I find incredibly beautiful. Like also newer like Turner, but all the way back to Caravaggio and
Right.
yeah, Da Vinci, who everybody knows, and I just like those colors, or
Mm.
Hieronymus Bosch, or I like the colors, the worlds they kind of created, the atmospheres.
Right.
And I always wanted to paint. I could never paint,
Hmm.
right? I might pick it up someday again, but
Right, right.
so that's why I kind of started photography to paint that way.
Yeah, yeah. I can
Yeah.
understand. Now, has it got something to do with the atmosphere around? I think you're from Denmark, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
has this got something to do with the atmosphere there? Because when
No,
I when I think of the
well, it is
bands,
sorry, it is a depressing country, but that's because it's flat,
okay.
boring.
So the inspiration is from within rather than the surroundings.
It's willing, yeah, because when you see stuff from Norway and Sweden and people and places with mountains, it's a different kind of vibe you
Yep.
get. Also, the music is different, the art is
Exactly.
different. So I think the surroundings does inspire you somehow to do big things.
Right, right. That's absolutely true.
Um, yeah, but it's from within, as you say.
Right, right. That's cool.
But I've been lucky and blessed with getting around.
Yeah, that's true.
So even though it's always work related,
Yeah.
but
Traveling is good. I mean, when it is work
it
related.
is good. You have to. It
Yeah.
inspires.
Yeah, you meet different people, different, cultures. It's good.
Yeah, and you come more humble. You don't get so introverted.
Right.
You come back and you see a lot of people talk about same old bullshit, but they haven't really been around. And I mean,
Right, that's true. Now, like since we're talking about journeys, I mean, when you travel across the world, you meet a lot of people and they tell
mhm,
you so many things and like they like this, they didn't like this, etc. etc. So you
mhm,
hear many stories from your fans. Do
mhm.
you really think about, those things and try to incorporate them in your future works, or it's just that you are following your own instincts?
Well, first of all, I have to follow my own instincts.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I get a lot of feedback, of course, but the only real feedback I really trust is from Steve and my close friends who can tell me, this is shit or this is crap or they don't
Okay.
like this, and then they tell me why. I do like it's nice to get a lot of good feedback and people says who loves your
Right.
stuff, and that keeps you going and makes you happy and warm. But you want some constructive critique, not just people saying, "Ah, this is shit. I don't understand
Right.
it."
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
even though when people say, "Oh, this is great," and that's wonderful. It is, of course, it's nice, but you really want to know why it's
Wonderful.
wonderful sometimes. But on the other hand, I can't really care anyways. As long as I like it and the people I working with these people doing this stuff likes it. That's the most
Most
important thing.
important thing, right? Now, have you and Steven ever argued over certain aspects which, let's say, you liked and he didn't like, and vice versa?
Oh yeah.
So, how do you guys usually get through these things?
Well, Steve always gets his way, doesn't he?
Expected that.
Yeah. Um, no, well, we are both adults.
Right.
But it's nice. It's nice to be able to, be open about stuff. It's what do you call it? Gentleman,
Right.
mutual artistic kind of
The mutual
understanding.
artistic kind of bond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can say, Steve, I don't like this, and he won't give a crap. And he will say, I don't think this is good, and I won't give a crap.
Okay.
So I just make my stuff, and then we get together and kind of even, uh,
Take it to a different level.
yeah, I go back and do something different, and then I've made something I can use for something else, or something like that. So, you keep pushing yourself
Right.
somehow, which is nice. I think you kind of need people to do that
To
as
do
well.
that, right? That's true. Now,
Yeah.
when you do the artworks on the CD, how long does it usually take to compile the whole design for the album?
Well, I just do I just do the pictures and the artwork, and
Mhm.
Steve gets together with Carl Glover, who's a really great photographer as well.
Mhm.
Super photographer, a bit different than mine, of course, but
Okay.
he also does layout work, which is pretty good. So I kind of don't really interfere in that process, you know.
But talking about your influence, I mean, what influences you, when you work on a CD artwork? So what influences you to make
Oh,
sure?
well, of course, the ideas we talked about, but
Mhm.
also the atmospheres of the song, what kind of atmosphere it gives off, you
Right.
know, certain kind of mood. It doesn't necessarily need to be lyric to what's in the lyrics in that kind of way. You want to try and make it a little more subtle or metaphorically,
Right.
different, so people can, there's different meanings for different people.
True.
Um, just try making it exciting
Mhm.
and something you would like to see,
Do you keep the commercial aspect in mind? I mean, generally people have that tendency to make sure that the CD sells. I mean, of course, it's music which is going to sell, but
Yeah.
you, in your mind,
No,
you would have
no,
the,
I don't think we ever done that. Because that would be that will not be true to us or fair for anybody or for ourselves.
right.
So luckily, we always done what we thought was best or what Steve would want as a cover, and
Mhm.
it might not always have been the best choice, but it's always been an interesting one and perhaps the right one in the end. But we want simple, iconic things that kind of sums it up.
Right, right.
We always like simplicity, and iconic.
Keep it simple and sweet.
Yeah, it's still interesting, and you
Right.
know,
Yeah, that's cool.
of course, record labels always think fucking T-shirts. It's
Right.
like that. What would be great here? How can we make money of that? But I mean,
But in terms of that,
and
I
it would be
think,
easy just to have a picture of yourself all the time, but it doesn't work.
right. In terms of that, I feel K-Scope has done a good job. I mean, keeping the
Yeah,
artistic concept
they're
of the
really good.
albums in
Yeah.
mind.
They're good because they give the artist, they want to do good, and it's their legacy as well as the artists, and the bands. So it's not just the band's legacy or the artist;
Right.
it's also the record label and the people who work around to make it happen.
Right.
So they want the best as well. They want interesting stuff. They're not your typical label, say, where everybody just wants to spend as less as money
Right.
on an album release and didn't just have the artist face on there, or as you see so much.
Right. That's true.
No,
Now,
like what Madonna or fucking Paul McCartney.
right. Now, along with Steven, you've also taken
Mhm.
control of Blackfield as well as Opeth when it comes to the live presence. I mean, the way
Not
you've,
as much.
yeah, not as much as compared to Steve. So,
Mhm.
how different do you think it is compared like compared to do it with Steven? Since,
Well, Steven is a very hands-on guy. He knows what he wants. He's
uh-huh,
got some strong visual ideas, and I do them and I expand upon them, just like with the art. Working for Opeth or Dream Theater or some of them, I basically just get to do what I want to do, which is also a bit hard because what the hell? Because sometimes you would like a little guy and it makes it easier, but the freedom also makes it a little more harder, I
it makes
think.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's more loose. I think they don't. We don't have. I don't think they use the same kind of cues as
mm-hmm,
for Steve, where we have to be a lot more precise and sync with the music.
uh-huh,
So it's a bit more floaty. The other ones, it's a bit more psychedelic, I think.
right.
And I'm still trying to keep it filmic, but with Steve, it's much more cinematic because we love film so much.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
So if we keep, Michael from Opeth and Steven, so how would you like distinguish between their style and between their, let's say, the musical, uh, the skill they have? How would you differentiate these two? Are they do they belong to the same territory, or they have the outer box kind of thinking?
Um, I think you have to ask Steve and Michael.
From
Well, I can only see it from afar. I think they're pretty similar, and they have a pretty good knack of coming up with catchy bloody riffs and tunes
Mhm.
and great lyrics.
Right.
Um, Michael is not really into the visual. Well, he's got some ideas, but they've never been like that visual band. You know what I mean?
Right.
Steve from the start has always wanted to
Always
be
been right.
visible, have a really clear visual sense as
Right.
well. And he loves a lot of art. So we talked a lot about that. Well, I don't think with Michael we like it's more like old album covers, which we also like.
Right.
Album covers from the 70s are amazing,
Yep. I
or
think
late 60s.
I think it's the
And that's
same.
more what he wants, I think.
Right. I think it's the same with Dream Theater as well. They don't, concentrate much on their visual presence.
No, and that's a shame, really.
Right.
Um, I think a lot more bands should do that, but because you're a good musician or songwriter doesn't mean you're a good visual.
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
and you see that with a lot of bands and people. I'm afraid they want to take control, but they simply haven't got any visual sense at all. So a lot of it turns into cheese
Hmm.
very easily. It's like we do this genre of music, and then it has to have a certain kind of look, or people will can't comprehend or understand it. So I think that's bollocks. You can do
Right.
whatever.
So if we talk about live, are you part of, are you with Steven for the entire tour? I mean, do you take,
No,
okay.
not anymore.
So it's,
Well, with Porcupine, I used to tour with them and do lights and the visuals,
okay.
and but
So it's just once in a
I'm
while,
not, sometimes, yeah.
sometimes. Okay. Right. That's great.
It,
Now,
it, when you don't have a particular job on tour, it's a horrible thing to be on tour. I
right.
mean, it's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of nothing.
Takes a lot of
It's,
patience.
so if you don't have a concrete job there, if you're not there to record or film or do something,
Right.
it's horrible. I tell you.
I understand that. Now, let me share an incident with you. I recently went to a record store just to
Mhm.
buy a CD, and I had a look at a lot of covers. I mean, I found few fantastic covers, but most of
Mhm.
them are generic and I would say exceptionally dull.
Yeah,
Many,
a lot of generic. That's what it's like the death metal scene. They want the same old shit again and again.
yeah, not many bands really give a damn about what represent their CDs, and that's a real shame.
Oh, well, I think they do. The problem is they don't have they can't give it away to somebody else. Of course, there's also the money aspect, and there's not a lot of money in these things.
Hmm.
People release it themselves, and of course they want to do a good job, but they just don't have that visual sense.
Right,
Also, the scene, I think, demands the same shit as well because the fans like visual know-how as well. A lot of
right,
them do, sadly. So you have to keep educating people. That's the only thing you can do. The people you can influence, you should try and influence as much as possible, and just try and educate people,
right.
and be honest as well.
Absolutely true. Now,
You
you must have found so many bands competing for attention online. Do you
hmm
think that a strong image, especially on the sites like YouTube, can contribute to band success?
Of course, that's how I discovered bands or interesting stuff when people send,
Hmm.
like weird music videos. Of course, I think the more visual strong and you have your own, try and get your own kind of sense of visual style,
Hmm.
that will help a lot, especially in these days where you have to, where you might not sell as many records, but you get to tour a lot,
Right.
or at least try and get some to. That's where the money is today in
True.
merchandising, in T-shirts, touring, and you need a strong visual.
Right.
So, you need a strong visual. What do you call it?
The visual, let's say the attachment.
yeah, something like that. You know, you just a presence. That's what
Presence,
I mean.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, just really stick out and make people. What the hell is this? This looks interesting. I gotta see this. I gotta hear it because people's attention span to listening to music has also gone down. You know, people will flick and listen to 10 seconds and then go to the next band.
Right.
Whereas if you have something compelling,
Yes.
artistic,
That would change the entire concept in mind.
exactly, it did a lot of good for us. You know, obviously Pink Floyd, but you know, Tool, those kind of bands. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
so I'm not saying everybody can do it or they should do it, but at least think about it a bit more.
True. I understand
Yeah.
that. Now, do you wish, I mean, it's been so many, probably 2 decades since you're working on this. Do you sometimes feel that you could have done something better? I mean, looking at how you have done previously, do you sometimes think currently, I wish I could have done that this way, or I could have done it that
Oh
way?
yeah, every time. I think it's the eternal curse of an artist and never happy with what they did previously. So that's how you move forward. You
Right.
know.
Wonderful. Now, what projects are you currently working on, or for the rest of 2014?
Oh God. I have a few. I'm working on the new Anathema cover. Uh, Anathema. I have to do for Steve Rotary of Meridian.
You're doing with Steve again?
We're doing his solo.
Okay, so he's working on a
Yeah,
new album.
I think so. Yeah, well, not right now. He's just finished touring with Blackfield.
Right.
Yeah, well, he's always working on an album. But, you know,
Absolutely.
I don't. Yeah, so it's just the beginning stages. So we're just talking about visual ideas, and
About that.
what we want to do, and the new show, how it should look, you know.
Uh-huh.
So it's early days, you
Okay.
know.
Right. So, Mr. Lasse Hoile, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
yeah,
your
you're welcome, man.
precious time. It was a lot
Well,
of
no, I'm
detail.
fine. It's weekend. Yeah, I just thought it was yesterday you wanted to, or tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it's actually 10 p.m. here. So I dropped a mail saying on Saturday, and you added me on
Ah,
Skype. So I thought we are gonna have a chat tonight,
yeah. I just read Sunday.
Sunday.
So anyway.
Nonetheless, so would you like to give any message for your fans? Because let me tell you honestly, I don't. Have you been to India?
No, but I always wanted to. I tell you that.
See, we have seen Steven just once, way back. I would say 5 years
Yeah,
ago. So
yeah, in Mumbai,
yes,
right.
in Mumbai, Poetry had
I
come.
was supposed to come there. I couldn't. I'm
Yeah,
afraid.
but the main thing here is, apart from Steven's fans are they are millions and millions of fans. But when we talk about the appearance, it's just one person, and that's Lasse.
Yeah,
So you would have to come here very soon, man.
I would love to. I know Steve would love to come back to India, and I would really much love to come down. I always wanted to take like a month, you know, and go around and see the country,
Right.
take pictures and stuff like that. I always wanted to. But believe it or not, I don't get paid much for what I do, and I'm always skint. I always have to
I
pay.
can understand. In this sort
So
of business,
I'm in this business. I'm not in this one to get rich.
right?
So
How
and
hard is it for
it's
you to manage your living?
oh, it's very hard. You know, some months you have to borrow money to pay bills.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes you get a paycheck, but you have to have it last a long time
Right.
because I had a day job doing commercials for many years, editing
Hmm.
short films for companies,
Right.
and it just got too much for me. I wanted to do this, so you know, it's not been easier not to
Yeah.
have a fixed income. You know what I mean?
It's a tough journey for
It
everyone.
is, but I prefer to do it this way because I have to, and I love this so much. You know, it's a
Wonderful.
luxury, but it's also a hard luxury. I have to say.
Absolutely. Lasse, thank you so much. I mean, it's
Mhm.
been a very educational interview with you. This is the first
Anytime.
interview I have done with anyone who is, part of the band's success
Oh, fuck.
when it comes to
Yeah.
outside appearance. Thank you so very
What,
much.
where do you live?
I'm from India. I live in Bangalore.
Bangalore. And how was that in?
That's the southern part of India.
Okay.
So hopefully, we'll catch you live with Steven or with, let's say, with any
Yeah.
other band, but surely we'll catch you live in India soon.
But if Steve comes to India, you have to remember to tell them I have to come along.
That would
He
be
listens to Fanes,
right.
so.
That would be great.